But Nintendo Switch comes out tomorrow, the day of recording this, and Breath of the Wild comes out. Dom, what's your topic for us? A very feisty one, right?
Well, I mean, I don't know what we've been talking about for the last 40 minutes, because what you just said, nothing else goddamn matters. Tomorrow, it's here. I get to play it, and I'll have plenty of available time to play it because it's goddamn portable. So I'll have plenty to talk about next week on the show. So my topic, though, actually, I got a little excited there.
Yeah, Dom, do you need to finish yourself off and just have us look the other way for a minute?
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. That's a result of when a game gets, I think, 50-some 10 out of 10 review scores, which is what I want to bring up. So right now,
remember how they call it enthusiast press?
That is true.
No. What do you mean?
They call it enthusiast press, meaning it's enthusiasts reviewing games, not necessarily critics.
Yeah, it's not fucking journalism.
Fair enough. All right. So looking at our good old friend Metacritic right now, and I'm looking at the top games of all time across all platforms. Number one, of course, Ocarina of Time. No, duh. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 comes in at number 2, which is interesting. Grand Theft Auto 4 for PS3. Somehow the Xbox 360 version is way farther down the list. Odd. But anyway, at number 4 with a Metacritic average of 98 is Breath of the Wild, which is extremely jarring, especially considering the last couple Zelda games have kind of reviewed, mediocre and poorly compared to the rest of their series. So
actually, I think that's, that is a direct correlation there, Dom. I think that people were so hungry for a quality console Zelda, which people are just hungry for a console Zelda in general, but a quality console Zelda and one that really is worthy of the series title. I think that explains why so many people are on the jock of this game.
Yeah, so that's what we're going to get into. So because of that high score, I mean, it's just, I think that's out of, I think the total is 59 reviews. That comes to that 98% average, whereas Ocarina of Time, I think, only had 19 reviews, 19 or 29. We'll put it in the description, Kevin. So point being, the more people reviewing the game, the harder it is to get a higher average too. So there's that. But people are either in two camps. It seems okay, great, awesome, that's a great score. I can't wait to play this game. I'm gonna buy a Switch, and that's gonna be the only game I have on it for close to a year. But that's okay because it's a 90 goddamn 8. Or there's people like, it seems weird. This series has been around for so long, and so many people are so nostalgic and love it so much, and it has so much weight behind it that reviewers are either overly nostalgic and letting that bias sink in, or they're afraid of backlash from the internet and they're letting that leak into their review score and things like that. And I'm seeing quite a bit of that. And I think it's a good thing to bring up. So like I said, I'm in the opposite camp. I don't think that is there in any meaningful way, especially, people like reviewers being afraid of backlash. I think that's ridiculous. Skyward Sword got 6s and 7s, and I'm sure people freak the fuck out. If you can't give a game the score you want to give it because you're afraid of what people on the internet are going to say about you, then
yeah, that's definitely lowest on the list of what I think actually happened.
So that's less of it. I think we'd probably be in agreement there. I mean, we would hope that reviewers are stronger than that, at least. The other part being, all the guys reviewing this game, they started out with the first one, and they're so nostalgic, and they're just letting the weight of everything kind of just make their reviews extremely biased. And I think you could point that out, and if you did some research, you could find out a couple of specific reviewers, maybe that's the case, and you could discover that bias in them. But across 59 reviewers, I don't know if that's admissible. Like, the law of averages kind of buries that to me. And then also, like I was saying, that didn't help anyone, give Skyward Sword a higher score, because that game scored kind of poorly, despite it having Zelda in the name. So, none of us have played the game yet, so we kind of got that gap in this discussion. But do you guys think that there's any kind of bias that would leak into this game and its review scores more so than, like Horizon, which is a brand new IP that no one has any, long-lasting connection to.
I'll let you go first, Jordan, because you probably have a lot more to say. I have something to say, but you can go first.
Okay. So yeah, I woke up today and started seeing this stuff, and I definitely was starting to get a vibe. I really didn't see anybody commenting on it. I was only just seeing scores and pictures of lists of 10 people giving it a 10 or whatever. And so I was kind of forming this opinion on my own and kind of thinking, this starting to sound a little fishy. And then as the day went on, it was like more and more 10s and 10s and 9/8s and all that. So looking further at the situation, I definitely think there's a little something going on here. I think, I think I was talking about this in our Facebook chat. I think I talked about this last year at E3, that people were just balls deep in this game's asshole, and like you could tell that they just wanted this game to be so fucking amazing. And we're talking about this game as if it were revolutionary, when really it's anything but in a lot of aspects, as though it seems to me. I haven't played the game, of course, but I definitely think, I mentioned at the beginning of this topic, that's why they call it enthusiast press. We hear this rhetoric way too much about these reviewers at these sites constantly reminding us that, we're trying to help make sure that the people who visit our sites get the best information so that they can have that they can make the best purchasing decisions that they need to when buying games. And I think that if that's the case, I definitely feel like they've failed the people that go to their sites here, because there's no way that all of these motherfuckers just don't have any complaints about this game. And
that's what else we got to point out really quick too. They could have complaints, but that doesn't, a 10 out of 10 isn't a perfect game, right?
No, and I understand that, but a 10 out of 10 is a game with so few complaints, or complaints that are so small that you're just not willing to include them in the review. And I think that that's just, I just don't think that there's that many people that just don't have any decent sized complaints with this game. And so, yeah, I definitely think you're seeing the enthusiast side of the press here, because for all the times that, Bethesda makes a decision to not send out early review copies, and we get all these kind of whiny blog posts about how they're just trying to keep their integrity at these game review sites, and they're just trying to make sure that they get the best possible information to the customer at the quickest pace so they have the best, purchasing decisions. I just don't know that truly is the case when it comes down to it, because this is an example. It seems like this is an example of them kind of just getting caught up in their enthusiasm for their passion for gaming. And, someone who's questioning President Trump in the White House press briefing, they may have something definitely against them, but if they're doing their job right, they're unbiased, and they're just trying to figure out, what the true news is and what the true facts are, and they're trying to get that out to the reader of their paper or whatever it is. And regardless of the situation, they're not, there's no like presidential enthusiasts, in journalism or anything like that. So I just think you really starts to see those holes shine in situations like this, because first and foremost, anyone who is in games media has a massive passion for video games. That's just how it is, and they shouldn't be faulted for that. But I definitely think we should remember to take those opinions with a grain of salt, as the buyers of games. These people are getting these games free, and they're like, oh my god, it's fucking awesome. Well, of course it's fucking awesome, because it's free and it's a Zelda game. But tell me what is really, what could really grind my gears. If I'm on the fence about this game, tell me what there is to know about it that I may want to know. And I just don't think that enough people are getting that information out there.
I don't want to go too long, so we can move on to the next topic. But I have two major qualms with this, two major issues. The first being that I think Zelda Breath of the Wild is probably a great game. I'm not dismissing that. It's probably a phenomenal
And
game.
I do too. I want to put that out there.
My big issue is kind of like with you, Jordan, of if it seems like a lot of times for this game, if this game has a negative, they're willing to not dock a full point to it. Whereas if a different game came out that was about the same caliber and had this flaw, it could be docked to a 9.
Like
right?
Horizon, for example.
And we don't know that, obviously, but it just seems there's a lot of rose-tinted glasses. And that's fine and everything because you do say it's an enthusiast meta. My other issue is, and I haven't played the game, so I can't really say this for certain, but everything I've seen about that game does not speak masterpiece to me. The game...
No.
And the problem that I have is that people tend to state that Zelda is innovating. It's not innovating in the game industry. It's innovating on its own franchise.
Yeah, it's innovating within Zelda.
Yeah, all of the stuff in Breath of the Wild seems like it's great innovations for Zelda and people who love Zelda. All of those things are about 10 years old when it comes to the realm of open world. None of that stuff is innovative. And I understand.
You could say that if everyone who reviewed it didn't play any other games, but I would bet that 90% of the people who reviewed this game just came off of Witcher 3, right? And even having that experience, they still, gave the score they gave. So they know what else is in the industry. It's not a complete vacuum.
I just think that they're not seeing it from Jared's perspective. Like, Jared's perspective is knowing that it is innovation within the Zelda series and not within the industry as a whole. And I don't think many people are seeing that. I think many people are saying, wow, this is so innovative. This is so innovative. This, that, and the other are so innovative. And they're not realizing that it's only innovative within Zelda.
Yeah, like, they're probably, Nintendo are masters of game design. Like, they always have phenomenally well-made games. And I think that, Zelda probably does a lot of things great. The problem is when you read reviews and the way they talk about innovation, I wouldn't mind if they talked about, like, this is innovative for the Zelda series. We've never seen this stuff. But the way they talk about it is it seems like they do dismiss other things that have come out, And it's weird to me because other games don't have that benefit. It's fine if Zelda has the benefit of only being compared to other Zelda games when it comes to innovation, but like the likes of Fallout 4, which gets creamed in comparison to Witcher, like that didn't have the benefit of only being compared to its own series. You know what I mean? It's a very Nintendo thing that's very weird because they are in their own kind of like set isolation that their games only get compared to their predecessors most of the time.
That's a good point too. Yeah, it's not just a Zelda thing either. It's a Metroid and a Mario thing too.
Yeah, and it's like, once again, I think Breath of the Wild is probably a fantastic game, but I do think there is a bit of rose-tinted glasses, this nostalgia. A lot of people in our industry now are in their late to mid-30s, and they talk about how a lot of these like Nintendo NES games are still some of the best games of all time, and I hate to say it, but they're not. They were at the time, but to say that they hold up a lot of the time, I don't think is true, and I think a lot of it is rose-tinted glasses, and when we get older, we might have that same viewpoint on stuff, but I do think that it being a 10 out of 10 from 59 different review places, that's very interesting to me that there wouldn't at least be one 9 out of 10, and maybe that's the cynic in me.
Well, there's a couple, right?
Yeah, but like, I do think, though, that in the best case for Zelda, it's great for it, but I do think it does suffer from it only being compared to itself and a sense of nostalgia. And I don't think it's like a crazy issue. I don't think this is supposed to be like an 80 Metacritic game, but I do think that did move it from being a low to mid high 90s to, what is it, a 98, which is insane. So it's an interesting conversation to have at the least. Maybe it's not all true, but it is something to talk about and to realize. And I think that this is a big issue that we're seeing with games journalism kind of dying and personalities becoming the forefront. People aren't reading articles anymore. People want to hear somebody that they understand their opinion on video games, and they want to hear what they have to say. Gone is the days of just reading pure journalism, because I think people have come to understand that there is no really objective statement on a video game, and they just want to hear from somebody that has generally the same tastes. What do you think about this game? Because, yeah.
I totally agree with that. And to put it in a different perspective, we were having the conversation about how Jordan Peele's Get Out, his new movie, which I haven't seen yet, but I'm very excited for. But we were talking about how, what's the statistic, Jared?
Only only 10 movies have 100% rating, and it's the only one with more than 100 reviews or something to have 100.
And isn't it like the only horror movie?
Yeah. Well, that's what it is. There's only 10 horror movies on IMDb that have 100%. It's the only one with more than 100 reviews.
There you go.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I you know, Key and Peele is very popular, but there's absolutely no way that there's so many, you know, Key and Peele fucking fanatics that were just like, oh yeah, well, anything Jordan Peele does from now on, you know, I'm just in love with it. I think that movie probably got accurately graded, and it's also, you know, Rotten Tomatoes is very different from Metacritic, and I understand that, but you know, you listen to a fucking gaming podcast, and 5 minutes in, you'll hear somebody go, "Oh, but you know, it's not like Zelda 2, man. The way they did it back in Zelda 2 is so," you know, it's like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, people in the gaming industry, especially the guys that are writing these reviews, the 35 to 40-ish-year-old guys that are at IGN and Kotaku and GameSpot and Giant Bomb and all these different places, those guys are always talking about Zelda, and like Jared said, always talking about these NES games like they came out a year ago, and they're just the coolest shit on the block. So yeah, I definitely think that's something to do with it here.
The dissenting bombshell that I just had to leave with is that, to me, that's completely disproven by the last handful of 3D Zelda games reviewing kind of mediocrely, right?
Yeah.
That's just what I keep going back to. Like, that, if that were true, then Skyward Sword would have been overrated as well, which it wasn't. It was rated really poorly.
None of Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword were not released in the internet age that we live in today. And I also want to remind you of how hungry people are for not only a console Zelda, but, you know, a great console Zelda. I mean,
also, this game was a launch title too, which is pretty huge too. It's like, you know, a lot of people feel that this console is going to live or die based on how well Zelda's received. I think it's a great game. Honestly, the only review I care about is Dom's review we're going to be hearing about in the next couple of weeks. Yeah, so I'm excited to talk about that. I think it was an interesting discussion to have. It was an interesting topic, Dom. Obviously, Jordan and I are on the devil's advocate side of this to you, but that's mostly how it goes with everything related to Uncharted or Zelda.